Kathryn, we've got a bone to pick with you.
Wow, he is on it.
It's literally never ending. And I mean that
You're welcome.
We've got yet again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle on Tuesdays, where Tara and I talk about all things relationships and communication. And today, we're super excited about this. We actually have gone off and done our own research, and we're going to come together in a conversation about how AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming a threat to our relationships. So Tara's going to kick us off, and we're about to have a juicy conversation.
Yes, we absolutely are. I never really stopped to research artificial intelligence until a day or two ago, and then some more this morning. Can y'all hear me okay? I got a weird message. You can hear me? And I want to, before we really dive deep, I want to share something that I uncovered about it that hit me very personally. As I researched and tried to understand the difference between human connection and AI connection, this is a delineation that I uncovered, is that humans are wired for empathy. And the opposite of someone with empathy is a narcissist or a psychopath or a combination thereof. So if you think about that for a minute, that means that we're able to respond to other people's emotions without personal agenda. That's empathy. Like, I can hurt for you, I can celebrate for you without wanting something in return. Whereas narcissists and psychopaths, there's always an agenda. And so what the early research in AI is telling us is that AI, even though you can purchase an AI girlfriend, he or she cannot deliver genuine empathy. You can emulate it through algorithms, but there's no possible way to teach a robot to feel, right? Because they're a robot. But you can build out narcissistic algorithms much more easily than empathy, because narcissists and psychopaths are always after an agenda, and that's what robots do, right? They're constantly growing and working towards a goal to serve us. And so I'll tell you why this hit me so personally, is because many, many years ago, when I realized that my daughter, her cognitive function was declining, I sat with a therapist who specialized in people with cognitive disorders. And back then, this was, almost 20 years ago, our culture was finally realizing that we were not going to use words like mentally retarded. But the therapist very gently said, as someone's brain becomes retarded, they will lose the ability to have empathy. And here we are almost 20 years later, and I have never forgotten that. And her reason in telling me that is that she wanted me to embrace the fact that my daughter may be becoming more and more self-centered and more like a narcissist, and less able to be caring or concerned with others. And so my own research tells me this, and forgive my language, that is bullshit. My daughter's cognitive function is very low today, and she thought my feelings were hurt recently. She simply could not get past it. Somebody said something, not even really that derogatory, and she was so concerned that it hurt my feelings. And I wanted to share this before we dive into AI and what it can and cannot do for relationships, because as simple-minded as she is, to receive the feeling that she was more concerned with my feelings than anything else in that moment is something that a computer cannot give us. And so humans are here to stay. What do you say to that, Kathryn?
Well, it's a touching story, and I can see how that would upset you, because that's important, so important to you. You care so much for other people's feelings, and to imagine your child start to head in that direction without any control over it, I could imagine would be really difficult. And interestingly, I found the same thing. It's funny because I started to look into, does AI, or can an interaction with AI generate dopamine in the brain? or can it generate oxytocin,
Mhm.
right? And again, you're the one who would know more about this, but from what I can tell, it can't. Like the oxytocin can't really generate that. However, one of the reasons that it is becoming a threat or could become a threat to our relationships is because it can mimic. It can go out and gather personal data that can be important to you and come and have a conversation with you with all that personal data. And it can start to feel like you're in a conversation with somebody close to you. So I'm really curious. The question really goes to you and what you know about the brain. What does that do to us? On the inside, what does that do to all that's happening? And is that really the threat?
So I don't know how many of us will use AI to mimic relationships. And so I think it's a two-part question. Half of it is we're using AI to help us do our jobs, to help us do research, to help us to do so much that perhaps a phone call or a human connection could have taken care of. So, and I especially want to just lean on to the folks that are still growing up and still building their ability to grow their neural pathways much more so than we are. What is happening with AI is because it delivers everything that is needed from a screen, is that it's diminishing our ability to socialize in comfort and know how to build human connection. So AI can absolutely give us dopamine because it can be exciting, it can be rewarding. What's next? What's next? It can be addictive, just like anything else from a screen. But dopamine is not what relationships are about, as we both know. The deepest neurotransmitter that is produced in relationship is oxytocin. And you can't love an AI girlfriend because oxytocin is more than just, people define love differently. It's a matter of bonding and trust. And you cannot have that with a virtual girlfriend.
Well, it's a good distinction because that is what I was curious about is, does the brain take over and do we then become biological robots to whatever's happening inside in that way? But I think one of the things we've talked about this before a couple of weeks ago on one of our sessions about how people are not able to communicate as well or socialize as well. And there's a severe social anxiety in the younger generations. And I just wonder, you say it's, you're not going to have that with a virtual girlfriend, or you're not going to use AI to have a relationship. However, I think we do. It's not quite as black and white like that, but we use social media as a form, to I've get close to people when I look at Facebook and I have to remind myself, I just looked at their Facebook feed. I feel like I know what's going on in their life. I looked at their Facebook feed. I know what's going on in their Facebook life, but I have to remind myself of that.
Yes.
And if we're not that attuned, I think that we can get sucked in.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think it's hard to balance. I don't know if you agree, but there's a place for social media and connection. I'm more connected to some of my old high school friends because of social media. I know I wouldn't be connected to them, and I'm grateful for that. But there's a balance. I'll tell you something interesting. There's a woman by the name of Sarah Turner. She has taught over 6,000 people to be freelance copywriters. I mean, she's really top of the game. Have you ever heard of her?
Mm-hmm.
And she is a consultant to Meta, i.e. Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought her in. This was one of her recent consulting gigs with them. They brought her in to teach the creative directors how to better write copy. And she asked the question, why don't you just use ChatGPT? Why don't you, of all people, why are you not using AI? And they just burst out laughing. And they said that AI cannot tell stories like humans can. And that's what they were after.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because there is a benefit to it. I've heard a lot of people be like, this is the worst thing ever. It's kind of I feel like maybe my grandmother felt when computers came along. This is awful. This is going to take the world down. It's she worked at City Hall for years and years and years. And when they brought computers in, she's like, I'm retired early. But it does have benefits, it it does. I mean, to be able to do that, to type that in, to get, like you say, copy or, resume writing or, things like that, to be able just to word things. So I think there's a lot that we can take from it. I think we just do need to be really careful and aware I think awareness is the key. And I'm so glad that Stan's jumping in because I really am feeling that, or I'm curious what other people think about this. People have a very sometimes spirited connection to AI. So Stan, tell us what you have.
Well, you know what I'm thinking about, and not that I'm really, really into AI, but what I really think about it is what you said in response to what Tara said. I think the problem is that although that technology cannot truly give us the true human interaction, you about really being in love with a computer or whatever it is, that thing. I think the problem is that people can believe anything. And people can believe that they have that relationship from something that is not a human being. And all we have to do, and I don't mean to step on any dog toes or lover's toes or animal lover's toes, because I love animals too, right? But there are people who would rather be with their animal than be with another human being.
No kidding about
Okay?
that.
Yeah. I mean, really. So we have the ability. There are people right there right now who are actually into virtual reality. There's millions of people right now, like the Matrix, if anybody saw the movie, that are hooked up to virtual reality machines and living the life of their avatar. And they'd rather live that life than live their own life. So human beings have the ability to love artificial intelligence and think that artificial intelligence loves them. And I think that's what the danger is.
It's such a good point, Stan, because you're right. It's not necessarily to Tara's point that it is impossible to do. That's really not the point, even if it's true. It's what do we believe? And where is their confusion, about, no, this is real for me, or I'm getting, and then also I think, how easy, I mean, one of the greatest abilities that we have as humans is the ability to acclimate. You think, oh, I'll never get used to this, or that'll never be okay. And suddenly it's like, wow, you have a new baby and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get through this. And suddenly you acclimate and you like doing all this hard stuff, staying up all night, And it's similar. You're in virtual reality. You're acclimating to what this is, and you don't have anything to compare it to that's as close anymore because you're not living as much in reality. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, it really just shines a light on the work that I do. It gives you a form of pleasure. It feels good. It's good for your brain. It makes you feel entertained. It makes you feel connected. And that's in the kind of Chat GPT and all these apps that give you partners.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another aspect to AI that is diminishing our ability to connect, and it's hurting our ability to be open-minded. And it's the algorithms that continue to give us an echo chamber of our beliefs. So if you're extremely conservative, you're very much a vegan, whatever you're into, it latches onto it and it continues to echo your beliefs, which shuts down your ability to be empathetic towards other points of view. And this is really, I think, a bigger scare. Like, a lot of us are never going to have an AI relationship, but we cannot avoid these echo chambers that continue to reflect what we believe. I've had a lot of conversations around this recently because of my plant-based diet and some things that I'm uncovering that maybe I'm trying to figure out that don't go along with the fact that I always just thought vegan was the way to be. You can find research and evidence to support anything you believe. And once you find it, you just get flooded with it, which causes us to shut down and not consider maybe other opinions are valid. And that, again, hurts our empathy, which hurts our relationship. So I think the Daily Huddle is over.
It's so true. And I mean, you're touching on it. You're touching on it, but I mean, that also is the whole advertising. I find it in myself, I talk about woodworking a lot, and it's like I'll be doing something like, okay, I have everything I need. That's great. I'm set up now. And then some new ad will come in. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't have everything I need. Yeah, I need more. I need this, I need that. And it could be food, it could be clothing, it could be cars. It doesn't matter what it is, but because it's personally geared towards us because of, what our history and what it is. And the mind-blowing thing, I think too, that's why we have to pay attention. I love what Florence said about considering that AI is a tool, and if used well, it could be really helpful. I think we have to be uber aware because now I feel like I say things and I have an Alexa and suddenly it pops up on my computer. I didn't search it. It's like how much is being listened to and the data being gathered, or we send an email and we don't think that it has personal information, but all of a sudden somebody has a profile on me, you know? So yeah, I think it's paying attention and awareness, I think is probably one of our best, I hate to say weapons, but defense mechanisms perhaps against.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Looks like Tom has a comment or a question.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Think about AI. I think about it. It's it's one piece of a much broader new way of habits. It's equipment. It's reshaping how we how we go about our day, um, how we show up. I I've actually been reading about this broader question, the effects of things like this. It impacts our pace. For how we just go about our day. It hinders our ability to contemplate. Be creative, and then on the relationship side, um, it it harms our ability to be present. I hear more and more about young folks growing up with phones, and then that they get these learned habits of what's called partial concentration. The idea of they're constantly phone
Mhm.
everything. Then if you've got AI right there that's answering your question or thinking two steps ahead of you, then you're even less likely to contemplate. You're less likely to develop that type of patience. And it's it's scary when you just take a step back and just see the accumulation of
Mhm.
these effects. I mean, that's just my own opinion. I know there's a lot of good it can do, but if you're not
Yeah.
aware of what it's redoing, how it's shaping you, then you're getting pretty far down. And then if you do become aware of it, it's just that much more difficult to step out of it and create your own space.
Mhm.
It's,
I think
it's,
it's so true. Go ahead, Tara.
I was just going to say it's such a norm for young people too. And
Mhm.
so it's almost like we've left our children literally instead of figuratively to their own devices.
Mhm.
And it was already concerning to me until I did this research about it's hurting their inability to socialize and it's hurting their inability to stay focused. But now, and interestingly, even there was a study at the University of Amsterdam, and it over time exposed people to articles and information totally within their viewpoints. And what did it do? It reduced the neural activity related to empathy.
Mhm.
So we're also hurting young people's ability to grow that empathy gene. And that to me is super scary. You can't fix that with Adderall.
True. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Gio has his hand up too. Gio.
What a fascinating conversation. Thank you for creating it and and creating this space for it. And I think we need a lot more of this conversation, actually, given how many blind spots humans have about technology in the context of the impact of the brain. I think one of the things that I have been discovering for myself and as a parent as well, I'm in a particular fun position to work with a lot of adults. And I am mostly concerned about the adults more than the children, actually, given because the children are less righteous than the adults are. And the children are a little more hopeful than adults are. So when I talk to parents, for example, about the impact that technology has on their productivity, they immediately think, "Oh man, I gotta find a way to get my children out of it." But they are already in it, and the adults are, and absent of the adult discovering for themselves a new way of relating with their significant other or their friends, it's very unlikely they're going to pass it on to their children. And so when I do work with young people, every now and then young people come to my workshops and they are a lot more engaged. They're a lot more fascinated about discovering their blind spots, and they actually get closer to their friends a lot quicker. But adults or what we call adults. No, they're a lot more scared. They're a lot more resigned. They're a lot more cynical. And so that's one aspect that's really concerning. It's mostly I'm concerned about adults. And also the other aspect is the mega huge blind spot we have about how invasive technology is at the level of hypnosis, if you will. And the adults don't, most adults don't, they are hypnotized. They're hypnotized. They're unaware of it. And to talk about it, it's like, I don't have time for that. And so, and they're more and more and more becoming lonelier and lonelier and lonelier. And I have a few friends who have gone to the avatar world to find people when they have a next door neighbor, when they have cousins, when they have friends. And it's so, but they don't know that it's not them who are doing that, it's their brain who's doing that. And so it's a fascinating conversation. And it was triggering all of this. I don't necessarily have a question, but I wanted to comment on all of it.
Yeah, you're touching on something that it's not just you, as a matter of fact, and you may know this, but our U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, he has a task force assigned to what he calls an epidemic on loneliness and isolation. I mean, there's a whole task force assigned to addressing this. And he also says, and this is a direct quote, he says that our relationships are a source of healing and well-being hiding in plain sight.
Wow.
Stuff.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Gia. Thanks for bringing all that. It's so true.
Yes. Looks like Shiva has a comment, and Chase talked to us this morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, beautiful people. I love this conversation. And first off, I want to respond to something. Was it Gio? I couldn't see your name. I love that you talked about the parent responsibility and all of this. First off, I love AI and it has all the issues that it has, but as I become aware and understanding, I feel like AI is really an opportunity. It's like anything. It's like a tool, and so it can be a destructive tool, or it can be something which I see it as like it really complements our own intelligence. So whoever we already are, AI is going to amplify that. So what I love about what I think is Gio or brought up about the parent is that so more than anything else, the parent's energy and ability to be able to have empathy and connect with children and to pause and slow down more than anything else, more than how much our children are on the computer, more than how much they're talking to their friends on text, or I guess I was doing text there. More than anything else, what I've seen and experienced, that it is the parents' energy, the parents or like the adults in their lives' ability or lack thereof to be able to create connection and community. I'm guilty of it. Growing, when my son is 16 now, but there were plenty of times where I'm doing what I'm doing. I stick a laptop, or not a laptop. I stick a phone, right, a tablet in front of my son's face, just so I could like breathe, And so
we've all done it.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, so I want to just reference two things with that. So there's a book, and I'm sure all, Dr. Shefali, I can't think of her last name. She has the book Conscious Parenting. And there's a part in there where she talks about teenagers. So we have this idea that teenagers just get to this teenage stage and then they're disconnected and they're blah, 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 blah. But the reality is that like they actually developed that way based on us pushing them out since they were younger. Yeah. And so now they become a teenager, they discover their independence. They discover, oh, I actually don't need mom and dad or caretakers that much. all this whole time, I've been having to find ways to cope and do all of that. So now the parent, because okay, the teenager is more independent, the teenager is like, now we're like hungry for their attention. I'm going through this right now. And I'm seeing like, oh, I'm a part of the problem and I'm a part of the solution. But like now they're hungering for the child's attention. And the child is like, well, actually, I'm kind of good. I got my friends, I got this, but it's not technology in and of itself, or just because they suddenly became a teenager. So that's the
I
first
think
thing.
that's a really good point, what you're saying. One, I think that the parent has more influence than sometimes we give ourselves credit for, because even when we talk, we sometimes think, well, technology takes over all. But really, we have to remember that there's a foundation that we give them as parents, you know, and AI really can't intercept that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a great
yes.
point.
And then the last thing is so there's a woman, amazing. Her name is Jamia Drummond Bay. She's an international curriculum designer. She has 3 TED Talks out there. And gosh, I forget what this TED Talk was called, this particular one, but essentially she teaches a lot about, to children's, even to adults, to corporations, how to be able to use AI and various different technologies in a way that's supportive, you know, and showing the beneficial of certain things. But she doesn't explicitly talk about AI in this particular talk, but something she says, like with children, is that rather than the reality is they grew up using, you know, digital devices. This is how they build relationships. It actually, and I love that, I think Gio spoke to this, it actually makes them more connected than us. It makes them build relationships faster. We can't imagine it because we didn't build relationships. So I know if a guy's texting me, and I'm like, oh my God, look, dude, you got to pick up the phone, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Well, I think that's a great point, Shiva, and thank you so much. I see we've got a couple other people with hands, so we're going to try and roll through before you end. But I just wanted to say this. I think it's a really good point that we don't let that, that we can keep in mind what are the benefits of it, because you're bringing up several of them, and we just can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Totally.
And let's be aware, and like, yeah, there's some really good points. And yeah, there could be more connection to, even Tara said that, you know, you're more connected to your high school friends. Thank you so much for bringing
those
that.
reminders. Beautiful.
Yeah. All right, Chase, what you got?
You know, I know time is of the essence, so I'm going to be extremely succinct right now. A lot of things she said was what I wanted to say, so thank you so much for those. They were amazing. In short, AI was created by humans. The human brain is so vastly capable of magical things that we have not even scraped the surface of. And I feel like when we get too much into AI, we are sacrificing our magic and giving it to something else to create for us. As a creative, nothing on AI can create what I can create from my soul. Nothing. I know that for a fact. Now, the problem is, what'd you say?
I'm fist bumping you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that basically. And there's so many books on the brain that teach you how to access places in your brain that you haven't touched. But the main theme I wanted to say was that more interpersonal connections, more speaking, more hugging, more walking in the grass, more reading books, more cooking for people, rubbing people on the back. That's what makes us higher individuals vibrationally. The AI only has a ceiling. We have to be careful with that. Thank you. I'm out.
Love it. Thank you.
Well said.
Beautifully said.
And I'm so glad Andrea has her hand up. I was going to call on you earlier because I'm dying to hear what you have to say. I just know something's in there.
It's something, and I'm not trying to be controversial. I hear all the things that we have to be cautious about, how AI could potentially replace relationships, which is the topic of today. Is not the tool, because it's the only positive that I could see in agreement to everything that we have said so far. But there is a positive aspect that AI could potentially, is not currently, but could potentially be designed to support with human emotions, love, understanding, and potentially provide that support and understanding that some people, that is potentially not anyone in this group, but others that we don't know, may need, that don't get it from humans. So could be because I don't think we all here are exposed to other people that are not able to have that human connection, and it is real. There are people that are different from us with other needs, and potentially AI can be designed, I'm not saying it is currently, but can be designed to support and understand those who don't get it from humans. So I'm not throwing it as a bad thing.
I love it. We don't care if you're controversial. We love it. We say bring it and let's hear it all. So I think
So that's my point.
Yeah.
It can be designed to help others. So that's my point.
Yeah. It actually makes me wonder if there's more to uncover there, you know?
Absolutely.
Tara and I having neurodiverse children. It's just, anyway, fascinating. Wonderful conversation. All right, Tara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love an opposing viewpoint. So I'm always about bringing that on, and it gives us something to think about. So, and it still makes me remember our very first tenet as we close it out, and that is love. And I love opposing viewpoints, and I have loved this very, very collaborative conversation. So remember to lead with love. Remember to give of your thoughts, your heart, your time, your mind, your talents, and take care of yourself. That means to not take things too seriously. Let yourself laugh. Get your rest and stress less. Put more plants into your body, a body that you need to remember every day to get up out of that chair and let's move. We'll see y'all next time on the Daily Huddle.
Bye, everybody. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
job,
Bye.
honey.
Thank you.
Beautiful
Thank
discussion.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great
you.
conversation.
Thank you. Yes, wonderful.
Hello, guys.